It's New Year's Day and I'm doing my traditional triathlon. But in the video, we are going to talk about staying engaged with the modern world, but doing so on your own terms, in such a way that you do not feel overwhelmed by all the bad news and all the rubbish that ends up coming through your mobile phone.
And stay until the end, because I will suggest an old-fashioned alternative: magazines and newspapers, and you can read most absolutely free.
Right, well, that didn't work out quite as bad. No sooner did I start recording and the battery packed in the swimming GoPro. So, you just have to believe me. I went for a swim. Right, what are we talking about? On the run, I'll talk about how I stay engaged, but first, how I've disengaged. One of the biggest changes in recent years has been the proliferation and availability of news. Used to be you got your news from the telly, the radio, or newspapers. But now it just finds you. It seeps into your consciousness through all the apps that are on your phone, 24-hour news channels, people pass it on to you. It's everywhere. You don't have to seek it out.
New AI-driven apps like Perplexity and Gemini will generate summaries of news events, and like X is already doing, feed them into your timeline. Other social media apps will develop this until they're the dominant providers, even if some of the content is blatantly wrong or misleading. And of course, we now know that the goal of apps is to keep you on their platform, and they do that by getting you worked up, by feeding stuff which provokes conflict. Keeps you looking and keeps you visiting their advertisers. So that's the first thing I've tried to switch off. I've deleted my Twitter account. My Facebook's only for looking at stuff that happens locally in our community group. And there are no notifications. None of those little red badges. They are all turned off. And when I want to go and look for them, I can. And I might do that once a day. Might be once every couple of days. And that has been quite relaxing. Regular viewers to this channel know I used to be a TV reporter for the BBC. So I would rarely miss a news bulletin in the course of the day. And crucially, every day would begin with me listening to the news. It was my daily briefing. But in the course of this year, Liz has changed all that. She said, I'm fed up with beginning every day with bad news. This stuff's being pumped into my head first thing. I don't want the radio, actually the Alexa as it was, in the bedroom. I don't want to be listening to that stuff. And you know what? It's made a huge change to how I feel when I start the day. I feel much better for not having that. And as a consequence, we tend not to listen to the evening news either, or watch it on the telly. If we catch it, great, usually for the weather forecast. But that's about it. Remember, I am not recommending complete disengagement. For me, it's about engaging on my own terms. I'll head home now to start the run part of this triathlon, and we'll talk about how I achieve that.
I don't normally go in for road running, but I shall on this occasion, because there is something that I would like to show you.
Before we get there, let me stress I still do some social media, in particular responding to comments on this channel. That takes a lot of time, but I enjoy reading what people say, and I always try to respond. Since I look at other platforms only occasionally, YouTube is the best way to reach me. Okay, to my new way of engaging with the world's news.
I found what works for me is been to go back to newspapers, but to do so digitally.
And you probably don't have to pay for them. This is Press Reader. Many public libraries all over the world use your taxes to sign up for this service, which covers most major newspapers and magazines in many, many languages. I download 3 newspapers a day, roughly, and I choose which stories to read in greater depth. Or none at all. No one is choosing for me. The choice is mine. I also get all my cycling magazines this way too.
everyone I've ever shown this to has been amazed at the scope of what's available for no charge. This is Ardnamurchan High School, and it's also our local library, and all I had to do was come here to get a library card number and a PIN, personal identification number, input those to the Press Reader app, and I've got my choice of all those magazines and newspapers. And there are countless libraries all around the world listed in Press Reader, signed up for that. So there's a very strong chance you would get all those magazines and newspapers for free too. So go on, give it a go. Download the Press Reader app and see if your library is on the list. If it is, go get the credentials and then you can read this stuff for free. But hey, what do you do to avoid this feeling of being overwhelmed by bad news? What are the tips you've got? Please put them in the comments, because that way we can all share from each other's knowledge. So this is where I'll say goodbye. If you've enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up. Maybe look at one of these videos. Looking at another video really does help boost the ratings that YouTube gives this channel. Subscribe, please, if you haven't already. I'll see you again next time. Goodbye and Happy New Year.